Okay, let's get started making a new email template in Marketing Cloud. We've logged in and we see our dashboard here. On the menu at the top, we'll go to Content Builder and select Content Builder. This will load in a list of files that have been worked on previously, and as well show up here in the main area. The most recently saved file will be on top. Over here on the left, we see that there's a directory structure. So when you save files, it's very helpful to save them in a directory so that you can find them again easily. If I click on one of these, we see that the list is filtered and shows only the files that exist in that folder. The default is the entire parent directory. So what we're going to do first is make a new folder for our new template. So I'm going to right-click on the parent directory, which is also called Content Builder. Create a new folder. I'm going to give this a name. And I'm going to create. Now when you right-click, if you're using a Mac, you have to have your right-click set up on your mouse to use this on a Mac. The option click function doesn't work here. If I click on the new folder that I've made, we see that there are no files in it yet. So I'm going to go over here to Create, and I can create a new email message, a new email template, and some other things. Under Email Template, I can create a static paste HTML. This does not give you the editing features that are built into Marketing Cloud. So what we're going to do instead is use one of the starter templates. So we're going to create a new template from an existing template. And this will give you a list. These basic templates are useful to give you some ideas of how you can arrange content in your template. We're not going to use these. If I go over here to Empty, we see that there are some bare bones templates. These do not have any placeholder content inserted in them. We're actually going to start with the very, very simple one over here. Let me move on. The theme templates are a lot like the basic ones, but these are all colored in. So these can be useful to take a look at. I'm going to select this one and click Select down here. So here's a sample template. Here you see that we have a header area and a content area, and then there's a content to area down here. Now Marketing Cloud calls these content areas. I think of them as being like regions in Drupal, because in Drupal you have regions and you place blocks in regions, and that's pretty much what you do here. If we go here to this region, you see we have a text block. If I click on it, the editing panel opens up for that text block. You see over here we have an image block, another text block, and a button block. Let me close this. If we scroll down to this region, here we have a layout. So here we have two columns. We have content arranged side by side. So if I click in on this, we see that this layout section is highlighted, and it has an image block, text block, and a button block. And then over here, there's another layout area with the same kind of content in it. Now, one thing that I'll point out here is that we have a change in alignment between these things. Let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to bring up my screen roller. The large image that's at top here has a certain amount of space between it and the edge of the page, which we can look at here. But then when we scroll down here, everything is pushed over more so that there's more space. And then as we scroll down here, this goes back again, aligned the way that it was up at the top. So this isn't great for design. Any graphic designer will tell you that you want to keep a consistent vertical alignment between things on the page. And as we go on, I'm going to show you ways to manage this. so that you can create a more polished email template. Let me close this for now. Let me scroll back up. We've been looking at the preview, which is the default view up here. Let's take a quick look at what the HTML code looks like for this. I'm going to click here, Code View. This is organized a lot like a web page. We see that there is some CSS at the top. Then there's a body tag. The body tag has inline styles written on it. Okay. There are a number of other tables here. When we get down to where the content is all in this table here, which has a number of rows. Each row has a div in it. These are placeholders that actually pull in the regions and content blocks that you've saved in a template. So these are the things that Marketing Cloud uses to target where content blocks go. You don't actually see the content at all in the template. You only see this table with these placeholder divs in it. So you see here, we have this div. It has a data label of header. If we go up here and mouse over, we see that it's called header. This one is called content 1, which is this placeholder div here. These divs have a data type slot, and each div has its own unique data key name. They must have their own unique names. Okay, let's close this. Let's go back here for just a moment. Content is the saved content that we have made previously. Usually this is going to be images, but it can also be blocks. Layouts. Here are the layout block components. Here's the one that was used here. The layout that we see here, that's 2 columns side by side, that's this one. If we wanted to add another one here, we would drag and drop this in. Then there are design settings. We're going to take a closer look at this in a little bit. Let's go back here to blocks. I'm done looking at this for now, so let's just exit this. And now we're going to do the whole thing again. We're going to create from email template. Let's take a look at saved. We didn't get to that yet. These are templates that you've saved previously. So you can create a new template based on one of your older templates. But to get started, we're going to actually use the plain simple template that's in the empty section. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to click select. And we see that there's a plain empty template here, nothing in it. Now over here we have our content blocks. We have freeform, image block, text block. Again, we have save content. Again, we have layout, and we have the design settings. We're going to look at that closely in just a minute. Let's go back here. I'm going to drag in a text block. So this text that you see here is just a simulation. The actual text that's in this block is over here in the editing panel. So right now we don't have any text. So let me just enter a few lines of text. And we can see that in order to get a paragraph, I have to hit return twice. If we take a look at the HTML for what we just did here, we'll see that I've made 2 BR tags between these lines of text. And there is no code wrapped around this text. This isn't a great way to go with HTML emails, but it's the standard way in Marketing Cloud, and later on I'll show you better ways to do this. But for now, we're going to use this very simple way because this is what most people do when they get started. I'm going to delete this, go back here. I've made some lorem ipsum text in advance. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it in here. Take a look here. Here we see the double BRs. Go back here. I want to add some headings here. So I'm going to make another BR. Heading H1. Let's select that. Over here under styles is where you select your heading levels. You only have 3 in the editor. Heading level 1. Two, 3. Let's take a look at that. You see that it wrote the heading tag with an inline style. So here's the style for heading level 1. Here are the styles for number 2. And here are the styles for number 3. The body text didn't get anything written on it. Okay. Let's go back. Let's close this. Where these get set happens under the design settings. If we click that tag, we see that there are template settings, body, and the heading level tags here. If we click on body, our body text right now is plain old Arial. If I change this, we see our body text changes. Where that gets changed in the actual HTML is here. Let's look at this again. Scroll down. You see that on the body tag, an inline style has been written, changing the font family to Comic Sans. This gets repeated down here in this table, Comic Sans. This table has 2 CSS class names on it, TB Properties and Border Style. These are going to be important in just a few minutes. We're going to go back to that. The actual content that shows up here in the preview panel, we don't see that. We only see the placeholder div. In this case, it has a data type slot and the data key name is banner. We just have the 1 row in this template. Let's go back to the default view. Now I don't really want to use Comic Sans. What I want to use is Verdana. So I'm going to change that. We started with Arial. Arial is the default for a lot of commercial email templates, but later on we're going to get into using web fonts in our emails. And so we want to be able to control what font people see in their emails. So we're not going to use the standard default Arial font. We're going to use a different font right off the bat, and you can see the difference between them. 16 pixels is fine for a font size. I'm actually going to make this a dark gray, 222, 222. You can type right into these fields. And I'm going to increase the line height. I'm going to make this 1.5 times line height. Okay. Next, I'm going to change the headings. Open up the H1 heading here. Right now it's set to Arial and it's set to this gray color, which is pretty dismal. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to make this blue. I'm going to make this a serif font. I'm going to choose Georgia. I'm going to make this fairly big. I'm going to make it a normal weight because I'm making it pretty large and it doesn't need to be bold. I'm going to leave the line height at single because if we have headings that are very, very long and they wrap, We don't want to have a lot of line space between long headings, so I'm going to leave it at a single line height. Over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Make it blue. Make it Georgia. I'm going to make this bigger as well. Make this normal. Leave it single line height. Down here, we're going to make this Verdana, the same as our body text. 20 pixels is fine for a size. I'm going to make this the same color as the body text. I'll leave this bold, single line height. So if we take another look in the HTML view here, we see that we've changed the inline styles that have been written on the heading tags. Now they say Georgia, and they have this blue color that I added here. And we see that the font size has changed. We don't see anything on the body text. Body text doesn't get a tag. The only time that the body text gets a tag is if we select it and we apply a change in font up here, or size, or color. If we do one of these things, Marketing Cloud will add span tags around that text and apply an inline style for the changes that we select here. But the base font style for our body text is set in the template. It's set on the body tag. Here it is, Verdana. Line height 150%. 16 pixels. That color that I chose. It's set there, and it's set here on this table. Okay, we've got to start. I'm putting some content in, but now we want to make the table, we want to make the page look a little nicer than this. So let's add a border around it and see what happens. We'll go back here to Design, and let me roll up these heading tags because we're done with those for now. Let's roll this down. Under the template settings, we see we have a page background color. I can select a light gray for that. That's a little dark for me. I'm going to go in here and make this. You need to use all 6 digits to enter in a number here. The content area itself, I'm going to leave white. That's fine. That's what I want. Down here in border, we have this little widget. If I click on this, we see that I can add a 1 pixel border, and if I leave this little link box checked on, it will apply the border to all 4 sides of the page. Now, I don't really want a black border. I want a gray border. Okay, that's a little too light. That's better. But I want to add some space around it. So let's look at what this padding control does down here. I'm going to add 30 pixels of padding. Ah, okay. Well, it pushed the whole page down. Didn't actually add padding inside the content area like I wanted. So what this does is it applies an inline style on the body tag, adding the padding. So it pushes the whole page around. I don't recommend using this because Outlook on Windows, if you apply padding around all 4 sides of your page, it can crowd how much space is left to view your email message. What you can do, if you're going to use a border around your page like this, what you can do is you can click in here, remove the link that's over here, just add a little bit of space on the top and bottom, but add no padding on the sides. And now you add just a little bit of breathing room on the top and bottom of your page. but you don't add any space over on the sides. So, but how do we get space over here in the middle? Scroll down. That gets added over here in the body section. And we see that there is another padding control here. So I'm going to add a padding of 24. There. Now this is what I wanted to see. So now we've pushed the content away from the border that we set around the page. This is great for our desktop users. What about for our mobile users? If we go over here to desktop, we can change this to the mobile view. Yeah, okay. Well, the space on the top and bottom was removed, so that's good because we don't want to waste that space on a phone. Nothing changed over here on the sides of the content, and our heading styles changed. Okay, well, this isn't great, but it's a start. If we look down here, we see that there are mobile styles that you can set in the template style. These do not work very well at all. I'm going to show you why in just a few minutes. But for right now, the one style that we like that's working is it's zeroing out that body padding so we don't waste space on the top and bottom. So that part's good. But we want to remove the padding space that's around the content. So how do we do that? Well, there isn't a control here that allows you to do that. If you look at this padding control down here, this pertains to buttons. So this lets you change the size of your buttons. But there's no padding control in the mobile styles widget here under the design settings. So what we have to do is be smart about it and add it in ourselves. So if we go over here to code view, we see that over here in the TB properties table, this is where the border is set. So that little 1 pixel border we put around here is set here. This also has another class border style. Down here, there's a table cell tag, and this has our padding of 24 that we added. And this has a class name of content padding. Okay, so we know that those two classes are there in the template. Let's scroll back up to the CSS. So the CSS is organized in style blocks. So there's an opening style block here. There's another style block here. This has our media query for our phone view, which is 480 pixels wide. There are some other styles down here. In the 480 breakpoint, there's a grouping of styles that says, do not change. Okay, these are the ones that are changed using the theme settings. So we're going to leave those alone for right now. I'm going to go here just before that, and I'm going to paste in some styles that I made ahead of time. So what we want to do is change the TB properties border to none. We could use none or 0, either one will work. We have to say important. We have to use the important keyword here because we're overwriting a inline style that's in the HTML. And we want to reduce the amount of padding that's on the sides of our content. So we target that content padding div, that content padding table cell, and we do the same thing here. We set an override style with the important keyword. And we can see the change right away over here. So if I go back, desktop view, mobile view. Sometimes people forget to do this and they end up leaving a lot of extra space in the mobile view. So I'm pointing it out here right at the start. Now on the mobile view, we have very small heading styles. Let's go back here for just a second. I'm going to show you what the mobile settings do. First of all, these are actually pretty good mobile settings. All you really need for mobile probably is to change the size of your headings. So since I made these big, I think we should make them a little bit smaller, but maybe not quite that small. So right here, we have our H1. Let's make this 30 pixels. Let's make this 24. Let's make this the same as our body font. It doesn't need to be any larger than that. This actually looks pretty good for mobile. The chances are we won't need to change the text styling anymore for mobile. So what I'm going to do is copy this to my clipboard. Go back here. Now let me show you what these do. If I make any change to the body font, it will change everything that's here. So if I change this to Comic Sans, you see that it changed the headings as well. The headings are now Arial because they picked up these default settings that are shown down here. And the default settings include this sort of gray color for the text. These are really terrible styles to give people on a phone. So I don't recommend using this at all. You are far better off just very carefully making subtle changes to your mobile styles yourself in the code view. Let me just set this back. Even when I set this back, the heading styles stay what they are over here: Arial, Arial, Arial. This padding is just for buttons, so we can leave that alone. Let me go back to code view. Let's take a look at what it did in the code. Here's that section here, do not change. You can see that it completely rewrote everything that was in this section, and it didn't format it. So trying to figure out what it did is really troublesome. So I don't recommend trying to fix this. I simply recommend replacing it with the default styles that were in the template to begin with, which is why I copied it to my clipboard. So now everything has been restored and everything looks the way we really want it to look. Let me go back to default. And let me go back to the desktop. So now we have a pretty good start on our template. So it's important to start off our template by setting some things up in the design settings first, because we see that Marketing Cloud does write styles onto the body tag, and that first main table called TV properties, it also sets up how your heading tags are written. So we set this up first, and now we can make further changes to our template. So now we're ready to save this template, and we see that we have unsaved changes. We're going to save this. The location is template demos. We're going to give this a name. I'm just going to call this Demo 1. I found it to be very helpful to name your templates template so that you can see it very easily. In fact, you might even put template at the beginning. It's going to save it in the template demos folder. I'm going to click save. And there we are. If we exit this, we see that we have our first template saved in the template demos folder. And now we're ready to go on to the second video and show additional changes that we're going to make to our template.